Cape Town is continuing the cleanup after the devastating fire earlier this week. It took 3 days to contain it, with many people evacuated from homes and from University of Cape Town residences. The fire destroyed parts of the Rhodes Memorial Tea Room, the historic Mostad Mill, and UCT's 200-year-old Jagger Library. Our reporters in Cape Town are covering the aftermath of the fires, what's next for those affected, and measures the city is putting in place to prevent another disaster like this. Just joining me are Ronald Masinda and Lindsay Dentlinger, both in Cape Town. Obviously, Ronald outside the Central Fire Station in Rowland Street. And what is it that you are hearing as far as the aftermath of the fire is concerned, Ronald?
Well, the latest we are hearing here, Jane, is that the fire is not completely contained. We are hearing reports that near Rhodes Memorial there was a fire, and late last night fire and rescue service workers attended to that fire. We will, of course, bring you more updates as the story develops. But last night, a night vigil was held in honor of the many men and women who braved and showed courage during the recent fires, which started on Sunday morning. And what we also saw last night when I attended the night vigil was the attendance of politicians as well as labor union workers. We heard from one politician, Faiz Jacobs, who says, in as much as we need to laud the efforts of the firefighters who saved a lot of property as well, in as much as a lot of property was damaged in areas like UCT and the windmill. But there also need to be recognition when firefighters work in areas that are previously disadvantaged. We made mention that, a lot of people that they have saved their lives, they are not recognized, especially in the media. And in Delft alone, Jane, I'm just going to quickly go through some of the incidents that have taken place over the past month. In Delft alone, on the 21st of March, 32 people were left displaced after the informal settlement set alight. We also heard that a week later in Delft, 2 people died in another incident, in another fire incident. And earlier this month, sadly, 2 baby twins at the age of 6 months died along with their parents. And Faiz Jacobs believes that, these efforts or these stories should also be given some sort of recognition. This is what he had to say further.
You have this tale of two cities in Cape Town. When firefighters on a daily basis have to deal with township fires, they don't get acknowledged, they don't get, and some of them are also asking for decent wages, for decent hours in their clauses. They work, but sometimes they have to work above the call and beyond of duty, and we must give it to them. But it's only when it affects our leafy suburbs then we show appreciation, because it's closer to home. So the city has entrenched white privilege here. It's clear, as a Cape Townian you can see it. We acknowledge when health workers are doing good, when it benefits us. But when they are having to do work for all Cape Townians, then that goes unnoticed.
So we also heard from labor unions representing firefighters. Many firefighters face the possibility of losing their jobs, and the labor unions say that this cannot be on. They will be addressing the city of Cape Town with regards to try and preserve jobs, because it has been a difficult week for firefighters, many of them working almost 24-hour shifts just to contain the blaze that we witnessed earlier this week. But also, Jane, there have been quite a number of casualties, people who have gone to hospital. One member, we're also hearing that he is in ICU and is really fighting for his life. This is what one of the labor union workers or members had to say.
We have been made aware by our members. It is a fully fledged firefighter that he has been injured seriously. He's at Vincent Pallotti right now, and we've just been informed that his lungs has also been cleared out now yesterday. So he's in a serious state but stabilized, and we hope that he can still remain alive for a lengthy period of time. It's going to take long for that member to recover. There are other 3 members in hospital. One has just been discharged, so there's 2 more that's left with him, and we hope that their recovery is speedy, that they don't spend most of the time at hospital.
And Ronald, I'm going to come to you, Lindsay, in a moment, but Ronald, I just want to find out about the state of those firefighters who were injured and what sort of impact it's had on them there.
So what we do know at this stage is that the one firefighter from Fire and Rescue Service has been discharged from hospital, but the one that was mentioned earlier on, he's in ICU and is in a serious state. He is currently in Vincent Pallotti, and we will be monitoring that situation in terms of his progress, but he seems to be in a critical but stable condition. But the other two firefighters are volunteers. We will be visiting quite a number of volunteers later just to find out what their condition is. But what we do know at this stage is that when that fire took place, 4 firefighters suffered serious burn wounds, and that they were in hospital at the time, but only one has been discharged in terms of the information that we are getting. But we are sooner to hearing from Fire and Rescue Service as to what kind of measures will be put in place in terms of the working conditions, because many of them have been saying, the firefighters that they don't have adequate equipment to try and fight these fires on a regular basis, and that this is one of the many grievances that they have. The working hours are quite draining, and also the salaries that they've been complaining about. So we'll sooner to finding out from the City of Cape Town, who will also be speaking to during our conversations throughout the course of the day.
Okay, yes, thanks for that, Ronald. Yes, they want an 8-hour day rather than 24. Let's go over to UCT, one of the areas that really bore the brunt of the fire. Lindsay Dentlinger is standing by. Lindsay, what is it that you're hearing about the students? Where are they? When are they likely to get back into digs?
Jane, we understand that as of yesterday afternoon, students slowly started to make their way back to residences, those who were housed in hotels over the past few days. But it's also my understanding that many students are not around the campus area because of a lot of virtual learning taking place. We understand around 4,000 students were forced to leave their residences. We know that 2 of them suffered fire damage, but of course the others on the lower campuses became uninhabitable because of the thick pall of smoke that was blowing over the area as a result of the fires. So we hope to speak to some students later, and also to the Vice-Chancellor in terms of reintegrating students back on campus. The Vice-Chancellor tweeted yesterday saying the UCT academics were working very hard to prepare the campus for their return, and certainly when we drove up to the campus here this morning, we started to see the buses that shuttle students back and forth between the different campuses already back on the road. And there are a couple of them milling around here, although a little bit quiet up here on Upper Campus where we find the mathematics and the physics and the botany buildings. Still maybe a little bit early to see some students back here, but our understanding is that a lot of learning is of course taking place online, so it's unlikely that you'll see the campuses swamped by students when they return to their residences.
And the library that bore the brunt, I mean, people were mortified hearing how much impact that fire had there, but we are hearing a little bit of good news that not all was lost.
Yes, Jane, again, we hope to speak to somebody linked to the library a little bit later this morning. I'm just going to step out of shot for a moment so Sunda can show you what it looks like at the moment. You can see the bottom window area is now boarded up, and if you can see along the top, we understand that today the salvage workers, some of whom have already arrived here on site, would start to remove the roof that had caved in. So those bits alongside the library, Jane, a tent has been set up, a marquee type tent, and we understand that yesterday they were able to salvage quite a lot of books and material in the lower floors there, at least the basement floors of this building. We were hearing already on Sunday when I was here while the library was on fire that there were fireproof roller doors that shut down sections of the library. You must understand that it's not just the building in front of us that was burnt, but the library extends all the way around these iconic Sarah Bartman steps where I'm standing, and the hall where students graduate from. So the library extends all the way around, and that has been spared because of these roller doors that were in place and shut down when the fire started licking here at the Jagger Library. So the main part of the damage from what we've seen certainly and from previous pictures is that this was the reading room, the Jagger reading room, and of course we do understand that a lot has been damaged. We hope to determine later on in the day exactly how much has been lost, but certainly, yes, Jane, quite a bit seems to have been saved from the lower floors where the fire did not get to.
Okay, let's leave it on that. Good news, Lindsay, Dentlinger, Ronald, Masinda.